Boyfriend's jealousy spiraled into a web of impossible rules, threatening my friendships and sanity, transforming love into suffocation. I've been dating my boyfriend, Peter, for about 7 months now, and when things are good between us, they are truly incredible. Our chemistry is off the charts, we're endlessly playful, both ambitious, and we share so many similarities. We're on the same career path, both love to read for fun, both into fitness. Friends have always remarked they can't actually sense the care we have for each other and how much we're alike: calm, laid back, genuinely sweet. If not for all the complications I'm about to get into, I would be completely, head over heels in love with him. Honestly, I already am when he's not acting out in these ways. It started about a month into our relationship, Peter revealed, and has since admitted many times, that he's extremely jealous by nature. He can be pretty judgmental too, a little conservative when it comes to relationships. And little by little, he began laying out things he expected from me. Things that weren't up for discussion, rules that he needed me to follow. For context, I haven't imposed any similar restrictions on him, and he's admitted I haven't made him feel this way. Here's just a glimpse of what he's asked or told me to do: no cursing. No wearing low-cut shirts. No weed. Fine, I'd only tried it a handful of times, anyway, and had no problem quitting if it meant that much to him. He prefers me not to get drunk, not a huge deal since I rarely drink, but it does sting a bit that I can't ever fully kick back and have fun with my friends without a comment from him. No perverted jokes, at least, not from me. He says they'd be funny if a guy made them, but not when I do. No using the joking little kid voice with my friends, not even my girlfriends. No talking about other guys around him because he assumes I'm trying to make him jealous. I'm not allowed to mention past relationships, although he does. He doesn't want me using emoticons in text to other guys. I'm not even supposed to use exclamation points or sound too flirty or happy when talking to men. I need to audibly say goodbye when we leave each other. I have to greet him verbally, even if I'm late and rushing into class. I'm not to speak to any male friends on the phone or text them after 10 p.m. Every day, I'm supposed to text him when I leave my apartment and head toward campus, then drop by his study space before and after class, plus one more time at the end of my day. He doesn't reciprocate. In 7 months, he's come by my space less than 10 times. If I don't text him for 3 or 4 hours, he'll send something like, "Oh, hi there, silent one, what have you been up to?" And if we aren't physically together, he'll ask if I'm behaving. Whenever I want to go out with my own friends, it turns into this power struggle. Even the way I'm allowed to speak to my ex, who I dated years ago, and with whom I was out of contact for a year and a half, is mapped out. Now, after some friendly, random small talk over Facebook, he doesn't even have my number. Peter has decreed that I can only message my ex once every 3 weeks, and the conversation can last maybe 10 to 15 minutes. If we cross these limits, even by accident, Peter loses his mind. Honestly, even if my ex messages outside the window he sets, I'm not supposed to reply, and Peter still gets angry. His goal, clear as day, is to ban me from ever speaking to my ex again. I'm not supposed to flirt with other guys, even though I don't. Peter sees anything I do smiling, laughing, light teasing as flirting. Sometimes I feel like he doesn't like 80% of the guys I interact with on a daily basis. A recent problem has been about my friend James. James graduated from the same program Peter and I are in and has always been like an older brother to me. He used to taught a class I took, and we bonded over study groups. In 3 years, there'd never been a hint of anything beyond friendship. James and I just click, same politics, same weird sense of humor, we give each other dating advice. When James came back to visit campus, I caught up with him for a single lunch, just an hour, while he was here for 3 days. Before he visited, we'd text maybe once every 10 days. After his visit, our texting picked up a bit, maybe 2-3 times a week, nothing wild. It feels normal. He's in a new city, doesn't know many people yet, and I just enjoy our chats. Most of this just happens on weekends, because he's busy with work. James texted me one Saturday morning. I didn't reply, so he followed up on Sunday. We briefly chatted about a TV show. Then he texted the following Saturday after he went on a date, just wanted to share how it went. This sent Peter spiraling. He insisted on seeing my texts with James, and even though I hated it and felt it was a massive invasion of privacy, especially just 7 months into dating, I caved and showed him everything. There was nothing questionable or even remotely inappropriate. That's actually why Peter made the no emoticons rule. Still, Peter claimed James was a shark just biding his time, only staying my friend because he wanted to date me. It's ridiculous. James and I treat each other like siblings. We have no feelings for each other, and now we're living in different states anyway. But every time James texts me, Peter gets upset. He'll either pick a fight or go silent and pouty until I ask what's wrong, Which launches us into yet another argument. The latest, just a couple hours ago, Peter dropped a new rule on me. He wants me to make it so James only texts me once a week. He hasn't yet said how many messages I'd be allowed to exchange, though. He also doesn't want us talking about intimate things. When pressed, he said he got angry that I told James I was going to take a nap. That's all I said. It was just something to end the conversation, so James wouldn't wonder why I stopped replying. But in Peter's mind, this is intimate. He's constantly coming up with new restrictions. There was a guy who liked me at the beginning of the year, and I finally blocked him on my phone because Peter's jealousy made things too hard. Peter even asked twice for proof, actual proof, that I'd really blocked the guy. The same thing happened with my ex. I know, deep down, that his endgame is to cut everyone from my life except for himself. I had a friend Rob, but Peter's jealousy wore me down until I just stopped talking to Rob altogether. Rob even came to ask if he'd done something wrong, apologetic, unsure why I'd grown distant. Meanwhile, Peter never gets tired or sorry, he just doubles down. I feel like this is going to be my existence forever if I stay with him. He never gives me the benefit of the doubt. He's always afraid, always on edge, that someone is going to steal me. I swing constantly between wanting to do what he asks, hoping he'll finally feel secure, and wondering if it will ever be enough. The more I comply, the more suffocated I become, until I feel like a caged animal, afraid every single day. James texts me or any guy speaks to me in front of Peter, and suddenly his whole attitude shifts. I like Peter so much, honestly. I've fallen for him hard, but his jealousy is absolutely driving me crazy. I constantly find myself worrying that if we stay together, it'll reach the point where I'm not allowed to be friendly with half the population, just because they are men. It weighs on me, knowing I'm in serious danger of losing 3 really good, genuinely respectful guys I've known way longer than I've even known Peter. Rob and I have been friends for 2 years, James for 3, and my ex and I have had nearly 6 years of history. It sucks, because I'm not a bad person or a bad girlfriend. I care deeply, I'm loyal, I try, but I'm so tired of being treated like I'm doing something wrong, just by having male friends. It's gotten to the point where Peter and I are fighting at least once a week, sometimes twice, and it's always about the same thing as jealousy. I just want this to stop. I want to be with the person I fell so hard for in the first place, not caught in endless arguments or walking on eggshells every time another guy enters the conversation. At the same time, I'm terrified of ending up in a controlling relationship with someone who just can't manage their jealousy. The thought of living like that makes me want to run. I keep questioning whether Peter's issues can ever get better. He is already seeing a counselor, but the reality is our school only provides 1 session every 2 weeks, and he missed his last appointment. He hasn't even brought up the jealousy issue with his counselor yet, because he skipped that session. He actually does seem open to couples counseling, which surprises me, but part of me wonders if there's even a point after all. It's only been 7 months. Should we really already be at the stage where we need outside help? He's also said he's willing to read books on jealousy and relationships, but deep down I keep thinking none of this is going to matter until he truly trusts me and really wants to change. He says he does. He promises me he does. Then we repeat this cycle all over again, and I'm left feeling more exhausted and defeated each time. Update 1. Sorry that I dropped off and went silent all of a sudden, but I just needed space to process everything. I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for all the support and kindness I've received lately. I've read and reread every word of encouragement, and devoured every resource that's been sent my way, lectures, book recommendations, all of it. Just 2 days ago, I picked up a book on controlling relationships, based on advice I'd gotten, and I've already powered through 160 pages. But honestly, I'm so tangled up in this relationship that I don't know what's up or down anymore. What's become clear is there are some deeply disturbing manipulative and controlling patterns coming from Peter. Over the last month, we've had several unsettling incidents that have really shaken me. For instance, I suddenly found myself flooded with suspicion. I asked to see his Facebook chat log just so I could check the last time he messaged his ex, whom he swore he hadn't spoken to. He flat out refused. The confrontation was awful. I stormed out, but then came back and told him if he couldn't show the same transparency he demanded from me, I was done. Even then, he hesitated. In hindsight, I'm horrified by how furious I became. I wanted to shove him, maybe even hate him, feelings I've never had toward anyone else. I didn't even recognize myself in that moment. He finally caved and showed me, and there it was, a long Christmas Eve exchange with his ex full of inside jokes, flirtation, and sexual undertones. I asked to see his phone next. Mysteriously, there were entire months missing from his call log, but 2 voicemails from his ex suggested there'd been more contact. He swears, that's all there is, but half the call log is simply gone. What stings is not just his hypocrisy holding me to strict rules, lying to me, while doing the very things he punishes me for. I feel suffocated, monitored over innocent friendships with male friends, forced to account for my whereabouts, abide by his scheduling demands, and subject my phone to his scrutiny. Meanwhile, he's discussing suggestive topics with his ex. His ex has blocked him now, but it's beside the point. He's tweeted me up so much I feel guilty if a guy friend talks to me. I flinch if my phone dings in his presence, convinced I've done something wrong. Delving into literature about controlling and abusive relationships has thrown so much into sharp relief. I've told Peter I worry he's crossing into that territory. He dismisses it every time I try to talk about it. Close friends have voiced their concerns, saying his rules, his jealousy, are deeply unhealthy. Peter just says he has high standards and that anyone in my shoes would feel the same way. He insists I'd be equally jealous if our roles were reversed. He does not listen. He does not take me seriously. For a brief moment, I thought things were improving. He told me I could text my friend James whenever I wanted, promised to stop being so harsh and critical. But then just yesterday, he grilled me again. Did I respond to James? Why did the guy want to know where I was? Wasn't it strange he was so nosy? James was just making conversation. That same night, I was studying with friends, still raw from a fight Peter and I had just had. Peter walked by, I made eye contact, nothing more. Minutes later, he texts, upset that I didn't smile and wave. I apologized, blamed myself for hurting his feelings. More texts followed, calling me cold, demanding explanations. I was so upset. I tried to tell him how constant criticism and control were pushing me over the edge, that he was trying to regulate my emotions, even forced me to put on a happy act when I wasn't okay. He shot back that I was overreacting, said he was tired of arguing and just wanted to be good and nice. It feels like this pattern: he picks a fight, lays out his grievances, then wants it to be over as soon as he's unburdened himself, while the criticism and control gnaw at me from the inside. If this keeps up, I know I'll end up conceding on everything. I'll let him criticize me, drop my friends, and beg forgiveness when I slip up. I'll become a shell, catering only to his needs instead of actually compromising. But I truly don't believe he's doing any of this maliciously. I think his insecurity gets the best of him. Instead of tackling it himself, he expects me to soothe it, to act as a patch for every eruption of jealousy. That's why there are so many rules: he's treating symptoms, never the root. 2 days ago, I tried to break up with him again. He begged me to wait until after his finals 8 days. Eventually, I caved, but with strict boundaries: no sleepovers, no physical affection. Peter agreed, but then immediately tried to kiss me, even though I pulled away. When I didn't kiss back, he got mad again. He claims to understand that he's been controlling and promises to change, but I haven't seen any progress. I still feel so confused. Am I overreacting? Is this actually abusive? He makes me doubt myself because he never calls me names or hurts me physically. He wants to read the book I'm working through, says he'll learn from it, that he wants us to stay together. In 8 days, finals end. In 17, I graduate law school. Honestly, I just feel terrible about myself and so lost. I used to pride myself on my empathy and emotional intelligence. It's what people know me for: spotting the right thing to say, seeing multiple sides, and being strong. But now I just feel flattened. I'm so embarrassed. I'm supposed to be this strong, capable woman, yet I can't even tell if my own relationship is toxic or not. Right now, my plan is to end things with Peter right after his finals finish and block him everywhere. When I picture that, I actually feel a sense of relief. But I'm also terrified that I'll miss him, or that I'm just being dramatic and won't forgive myself for dumping something good. I keep arguing with myself: if I'm this unhappy, I can't keep going. The long distance alone is too much, let alone the rules. He wants to job hunt in my city, hopes to get back together later, but how can I consider reuniting with so many doubts? I refuse to stay miserable another day. I have to break up with him and I must stick to it. I've tried before and always talked myself right back in. This isn't healthy. He knows I've been seeking support, but not the details or where. If he saw this, he'd recognize it right away. But this is my truth, and I need to hold on to it. Update 2. I finally did it. Today, I took the last step just 10 minutes ago. I blocked him on every single account I have. We're going no contact. I realize now that he intentionally used the time right before and after finals to pull me back in, just like many warned me he would. Still, I don't regret waiting. I really didn't want to be the reason he bombed all his finals and lost out on the job he wanted because of poor grades. That isn't who I am, and I'm okay with sacrificing a couple weeks of my own happiness to preserve that part of myself. The weeks after were filled with endless apologies, him assuring me he was changing, promising me things would be better. But nothing ever really changed. Something in me shifted. I realized I didn't even want to wait to see if he'd improve because I simply don't want to be with him. He's not respectful of me, and I've learned you can't teach someone to respect you. Empathy just isn't part of his world. When it came to making plans, my feelings never entered the equation. If I tried to express myself, he'd brush me off, completely dismissive of my concerns. The sad truth is that I never felt valued, supported, or happy when we spoke. When I broke up with him, he said he wanted it too because apparently my interactions with men including James were inappropriate and not in line with his beliefs. Months ago that would have devastated me. I probably would have gotten sucked in, defending myself. But now, I just replied, "You know that's not true, but I'm not going to fight with you about it. I wish you the best. Goodbye." Then I blocked him. Sure, I feel a little sad and lonely. Going from constantly texting and sharing sweet goodnights to utter silence feels strange. But I'm hoping the relief of not fighting constantly will make it worth it. The best news? I graduated last week, made the honor roll, even got the highest award in a competitive class. I'm back in my home state now, living with my wonderful, supportive parents. Tomorrow, I start my bar review course. I'm back to running and lifting multiple times a week, and I'm actively filling up my social calendar. It's hard to stop compulsively checking my phone or to fall asleep without our nightly routine, but I know that, at least for now, not living a building away will help this fade more gently. I reached out to a friend already, and she supports my decision. I'll reach out to a few others this afternoon. The hardest part of all this is letting go of the fantasy, the idea that he'd get better, that we could have something intense, passionate, beautiful, and healthy, all rolled into one. I let so much of his possessiveness slide because I felt so incredibly cared about. But now I know what to watch for in the future. I'm determined to stay single for the rest of 2015, to build myself back up and protect myself from another toxic relationship. I will protect myself the way I would protect a friend. I'm 25 now, and I need to take my relationships more seriously. I never want to end up married to someone like Peter. The future scares me, being with someone like him, or maybe never feeling that passionate again. I'm especially afraid that maybe I really am all the things he accused me of being. But deep down, I know I'm doing the right thing. Normally, this would be the point where he'd show up at my door, knocking, waiting, begging to be unblocked. But for the first time ever, I won't be opening that door. 2 years ago, I was desperate for help. Deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong in my relationship, but I was hellbent on fixing it. The process of asking for support and trying to make sense of everything was how I began clearing the fog. I wanted so badly for others in similar situations to know there's life on the other side of leaving someone who's toxic and manipulative. Only 2 months after the breakup, I realized I was going to be okay. I remember the moment vividly. I was on a family vacation, curling my hair in the mirror. I caught my reflection and was startled. I actually looked calm. For the first time in a year, I wasn't worried about being called names, or about being accused of cheating just for smiling too much at dinner, or about my swimsuit at the pool being deemed showing off. I felt happy, safe, and confident. I became almost giddy with the realization I hadn't been criticized in months, and for the first time, I felt truly free. It was tough to get out of that relationship. Honestly, I think I was addicted to the highs and lows. Every time I tried to leave, he'd love bomb me. I learned the term researching after the breakup, and I'd get sucked back in. I worried nothing would ever feel as good as that relationship. Still, I did everything I'd been advised to do. I worked out, reconnected with friends, picked up new hobbies, and crucially went to counseling. The path was long, but so much easier than I ever imagined. Now, I'm happy. So much has happened in my life these last 2 years, and all of it has been better than that relationship ever was. If there's one thing I wish others would take from my story, it's that anyone can end up in an abusive relationship. Intelligence, confidence, independence, none of it makes you immune. Being in that situation doesn't make you stupid or unworthy. The antidote is listening to your gut and honoring boundaries you set for yourself. So many times I felt that pit in my stomach, knew something was wrong, and ignored it because I thought a compromise could be found. But some people really are manipulative. They care about themselves, not you, and you cannot force them to treat you with respect or value you. When you see those red flags, don't try to change them. Cut your losses and leave. Don't let their voice worm into your head or start believing their lies. I have learned that and I will never forget it. It took me nearly a year to undo the damage that just an 8-month relationship left behind. Can you believe that things could get so bad, so quickly? 4 months after the breakup, I'd catch myself panicking inside whenever I laughed too much with my friends, secretly sure that I'd be pulled aside and lectured for being fake, flirty, or inappropriate. The simplest things, like making a sarcastic joke, felt impossible. My ex never got them anyway or thought they were funny. I had to almost start from scratch, painstakingly rebuilding my self-confidence and redefining my own worth. Even picking out where I wanted to eat was a struggle. My opinion hadn't mattered for so long that the questions just left me blank. But slowly, things changed. When I finally got through the thick of it, I was almost in awe at how peaceful life could feel. My self-esteem started to come back, and suddenly I had people around me treating me kindly, gently, like I mattered. My parents noticed it too, telling me I seemed happier than I had in a whole year. Hearing my best friend say she was just glad to have me back nearly brought me to tears. After that, I knew I had to take my time. I gave myself a 6-month break from dating and focused solely on rebuilding myself, trying to recenter and figure out what I really wanted. When I was finally ready, I sat down and wrote out actual parameters for dating, a real list of qualities I needed in a partner: kindness, gentleness, warmth, an even temper. I didn't settle either. If someone wasn't listening or treating me the way I deserved, I stopped seeing them. Then, 6 months into dating again, I met someone who fit that list perfectly. Now, it's been over a year with him, and I can't stress enough how different this relationship feels. It's like night and day. Unheard, respected, treated like an equal, and my boundaries actually matter. I can stay friends with whoever I want. I'm still close with James. And my alone time is never questioned. Life is better when it's truly your own. Update 3. I thought the book was closed. Then, a month ago, I opened my email between meetings and saw a message with his name sitting there anyway, except it wasn't from him. It was from a woman I didn't know. She said she'd found my name through mutuals at our program and asked if we could talk. "I think we're dating the same person you once did," she wrote, and my whole body went cold and then weirdly calm, like my brain chose quiet over panic. We met in a bright, noisy coffee shop at noon, the safest place I could think of. She was younger than me by a few years and had that same eager confidence I used to feel pulsing under my skin. You could tell she took on a lot and excelled at most of it. She didn't waste time. She slid her phone across the table and I felt my face go hot because on the screen was a notes app full of agreements, and they weren't hers. I knew the phrases before my eyes finished reading them. No exclamation points to men. No talking about naps because that's intimate. Mandatory check-ins. The same diction, even a strange little formality that always made apologies from him feel like they'd been edited. I don't know what she saw in my face, but she exhaled and put her head in her hands. "I'm not crazy," she said, not asking. I told her I couldn't tell her what to do, but I could tell her what happened to me. So I did. Not a speech, not a manifesto. Just truth. I watched her shoulders inch down with every detail that matched. Then she pulled up an email from him that was so close to one he once sent me that it had the same typo in the third sentence. I hadn't realized how much I'd convinced myself that, at least, the pain had been original. Seeing it replicated, template-like, felt obscene. Weirdly, it helped. I wasn't special in the way I'd feared, uniquely broken, uniquely difficult. I was just the last person he did this to before he moved on to the next. She left him that week. He didn't take it well. He started with the familiar vault of messages, floods of apologies, then anger, then scripture-length explanations of how to fix it all, of which she screenshotted and sent to a free legal clinic she'd found. She reached back out to me after she filed for a protection order and asked if I'd be willing to submit a statement about my experience. I thought about my own quiet promises to myself 2 years ago, about the way I'd sworn to protect my future self the way I would a friend. So I wrote it. I kept it specific and sober, dates and examples, nothing performative. When she texted me the hearing date, I asked if she wanted me there. She did. Courtroom smelled the same no matter the county, old carpet and cold air conditioning. I sat in the second row behind her as the bailiff called names, palm slick against my skirt. When he walked in, I braced instinctively for my mind to splinter into that old fog, but it didn't. He took the seat to the left and tried to catch my eye like this was all a misunderstanding we could untangle with a good talk. I looked at the clerk's stapler instead and counted the metal teeth until my pulse evened. Her attorney did most of the speaking. When it was my turn, I stood and told the judge, in the plainest language I could, what those agreements looked like when you lived inside them. My voice shook for the first 20 seconds, then found its groove. He didn't interrupt. He just stared at a spot on the table like if he concentrated hard enough, my sentences would fold back into my throat. The judge granted her a 1-year order. There was no big TV moment. The gavel didn't thunder, the room didn't gasp. Papers were slit and clipped and the bailiff nodded, and the whole thing was as quiet as the way these things tend to start, with rules that don't seem like rules until they're your oxygen. Outside, in the hallway with its scuffed baseboards and bad art, she cried into my shoulder and apologized for getting me involved, and I had this odd, steady thought that if 18 months ago someone had told me this exact hallway would be where I'd feel real closure, I would have laughed. But there it was. Not triumph, just the clean relief of a door thudding shut. He tried, once more, to pry it back open. He must have waited in the parking structure because when I walked toward my car with my boyfriend, yes, the gentle one, the kind one, he stepped out from behind a concrete pillar like a ghost who'd misread his cue. My stomach flipped, but my feet didn't freeze. I said, loudly and clearly, that I wasn't speaking to him and walked back toward the entrance where a security guard stood. He didn't follow. He knew better there. Later, a burner number pinged my phone with a final, long message about character and forgiveness and God. I took a screenshot, forwarded it to the clinic lawyer, and blocked it. I slept that night. The old me would have lain awake rehearsing counter-arguments to every twist of logic. The current me played at Sani with lemon, watched a dumb sitcom, cried once in the shower, and was asleep by 10. Life didn't pause around it. 2 days after the hearing, James FaceTimed me from a city 2 time zones away to tell me he proposed to his girlfriend and asked if I'd do a reading at the wedding. I laughed because the universe's timing has a sense of humor. I spent a year being told that a text about a nap was too intimate, and now I get to stand up in front of 2 people I adore and read words about actual intimacy, the kind you build with ordinary tenderness stacked on ordinary days. My boyfriend squeezed my knee while I was on the call and mouthed, "You okay?" And I nodded. I was. After we hung up, we went to the park and lay on the grass and tried to name cloud shapes that refused to be named. I didn't have to narrate where I was, or check in on the hour, or explain that the laughter was about nothing and no one. I just watched the light move across leaves and felt the quiet kind of happy that sneaked up on you when you stopped auditing yourself. People always warned me that closure probably wouldn't look like a speech or a perfect apology or a cinematic scene. They were right. Mine looked like a man in a suit not catching my eye in a beige room, a piece of paper slid across a desk, and a woman I barely knew choosing herself in real time. It looked like me reading an email with a recycled typo and feeling, not rage, but distance. It looked like dinner on a Wednesday and remembering, halfway through, that no one was about to find a reason to pick a fight with me over the way I said goodnight to a friend. I don't think about him much anymore. When I do, it's mostly as a pattern I can spot at the edge of other people's stories, a contour I recognize without having to trace. I used to be scared I'd never feel anything as intense as what I felt with him. Now I realize that intensity was just anxiety with a good soundtrack. The real thing is quieter and deeper and almost suspiciously simple. It's flowers on a windowsill because I said, I like the purple ones. It's sitting in the very back pew of a courthouse and letting someone else be believed for once. It's getting a text from James about tux rentals without a chunk of my nervous system lighting up like a house with all the lights left on. Update 4. I thought the last echo had faded, and then a white envelope with a raised seal found its way to my mailbox anyway. My name in serif letters. Return address, State Board of Bar Examiners. I set it on the counter next to a bowl of clementines and stared at it so long the peel on one of them started to look like a topographical map. When I finally slid a butter knife under the flap, the language was so sterile it almost made me laugh, an invitation to provide information relevant to an applicant's character and fitness. They did not write his name like a headline, just section numbers and the docket of the protection order and a checkbox I could mark if I was willing to submit a statement or appear. I stood there with the fridge humming behind me, and I felt that old tug of war between not wanting to be anyone's bad thing and knowing, in my bones, that I wasn't causing this, just describing it. I called the clinic lawyer, who sounded like she had 3 tabs open and a granola bar in her hand. She said it was routine when a protective order shows up on a background, that I didn't owe anyone participation, and that, if I did choose to speak, to keep it factual and brief. It's not punishment, she said. It's record. I said yes. I wrote on a Sunday morning at the table with a wobbly leg, the sun slicing a rectangle onto the wood. No adjectives. Dates. Examples. The thing about the agreements that weren't. The escalation that followed a boundary. The way I stopped sleeping. My boyfriend made coffee and put the mug down without touching me, like he understood that sometimes even kindness can jostle a sentence out of order. I signed the last page, scanned everything to a quiet little folder with a boring name, and sent it. They scheduled a virtual hearing. At 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, I propped my laptop on a stack of depositions and clicked a link that spit me into a grid of faces, each square its own small climate. A panelist with a tie that looked like a tiny library. A woman in an office with a ficus leaning toward the light. His box in the top row, blue shirt, the neutral painting behind him that I'm sure he chose on purpose. His counsel spoke first and did what counsel do: context and growth and insight. He read a statement that had the cadence of something rehearsed in the mirror: accountability, mentorship, faith, a men's group, the word humility tucked neatly between commas. When they turned to me, my voice did that thin, trembly thing for 3 sentences and then settled. I answered their questions like a witness, not like a ghost in a past life. No one raised their voice. No one tried to make an ending out of a paragraph. At the end, they thanked me for my time in the way institutions do, politely, like the he had never been in the room hall. I closed the laptop and took the trash out. The sky was lit up like a bruise on one edge and a postcard on the other, and in the alley a neighbor kid tried to balance on a scooter with one foot in the air like he could lean his way into flight. You'd expect a verdict to feel cinematic, but the decision slid in as an email with an attachment and a lot of whereases. He wasn't denied. He wasn't waved through either. Conditional admission for 2 years, with monitoring and treatment and regular reports, and a line that made my stomach unclench just a little: any further violations of protective orders would be grounds for immediate review. It didn't taste like victory. It tasted like tap water after a long run, necessary and unglamorous and exactly right. Life was happening alongside all of it and refused to pause. The weekend before the hearing, I stood under a maple tree at James's wedding in a dress the color of dark honey and read a poem about love that doesn't posture. Just verbs: choosing, folding, remembering, returning. I saw his fiancée, now wife, blink back tears, and I felt my own throat go bright and tight in a way that had nothing to do with fear. After, my boyfriend spun me across a rented dance floor to a terrible 90s song I loved on principle, and my phone sat face down in my purse like a well-trained animal. No check-ins. No audit. Just heat lightning in the distance and the smell of grass and something like keys braided through the music. A week later, a number I didn't recognize sent one text: "Can I ask you something?" It was another woman 3 years younger, different city, same uneasy déjà vu in her sentences. I met her in broad daylight at a bakery that cuts their croissants like math. She didn't need me to tell her what to do, she just needed to borrow a steady for an hour. We split a lemon bar and talked logistics. When she left, she squeezed my forearm and said, "It helps to see the other side." I went home and put a new set of purple tulips in a jar, because sometimes the antidote to feeling like a walking affidavit is as simple as putting something delicate where you can see it will to know that's not a failure, it's biology. We signed a lease this month. 2 bedrooms, creaky floors, a window that pretends to be a painting at sunset. He handed me the bigger closet without making it a grand gesture, which somehow made it feel like one. There's a hook by the door, 4 keys, because the old me used to lose mine in the churn and then berate myself like I'd failed a moral test. There's a bowl by the sink where the clementines go, map lines and all. On our second night, the smoke alarm chirped once at 3 a.m. And the 2 of us lay there in the dark holding still like campers listening for a bear, and then he got up and fixed it without making a production out of being useful. We laughed in that relieved way people laugh when the thing that went wrong is so stupid it can't help but be funny. Every so often, the pattern of him flickers at the edge of someone else's story and I recognize it without having to stare. I don't go hunting. I don't turn opacity up past what my day can handle. The board's conditions tick along in the background like a reminder that consequences aren't thunderclaps, they're calendars. If he does the work, those 2 years will pass, and I hope truly that he learns something real about himself that isn't just a sentence he practices in the mirror. If he doesn't, there's language for that now, and a file, and a door that already knows how to shut. I used to think the end I wanted was him understanding me. The end I actually got is me no longer volunteering to be understood by him. It's quieter. It's sturdier. It looks like a lease with my name next to someone gentle's, shoe lips that go from upright to papery without drama, a career that unfolds on its own merits, a kitchen where the only rules posted on a fridge are recipes for things we'll cook on a rainy Tuesday. It looks like my phone lighting up with James's text about tux fittings and my nervous system staying at its baseline, unremarkable hum. It looks like walking past a mirror at noon on a weekday and catching my face mid-thought and thinking, "Oh, there you are." And knowing I can go days without remembering that there was ever a time I needed permission to laugh at nothing.